Chosen one, listen closely. You are not here by chance or coincidence. Heaven itself has aligned this moment, drawing you into a divine appointment written long before you arrived. Something sacred has been disturbed, something set apart with your name upon it, and the spirit world has already taken notice. What you are sensing is not imagination or emotion, it is timing, it is recognition, it is the sound of heaven leaning in as judgment, restoration, and recompense begin to move. Chosen one, you are standing at the threshold of a supernatural shift. What was delayed is now being addressed. What was misused is being confronted. What was diverted is being rerouted. Scripture reminds us that there is an appointed time, and though it may seem slow, it will surely come, as written in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3. You are not late, you are precisely where heaven intended you to be, when exposure meets elevation and silence gives way to transfer. Anointed one, this is not merely about identity. It is about authority, assignment, and inheritance. Heaven does not overlook what belongs to its own. What was touched without permission is now under review, and what was marked for you is being returned with increase. This is the edge of transformation, where divine justice and divine favor intersect. And yet, chosen one, not every reminder arrives as a voice or a proclamation. Sometimes it appears as something quiet, simple, and steady, waiting beneath the noise, already prepared as a place of rest. Chosen one, heaven has summoned you into this moment with intention, not emotion, not coincidence, but precision. What you are sensing right now is not imagination, it is recognition. Something that belonged to you was touched, carried, and presented by another, and the spirit realm has already taken record. This is not about comparison. This is not about jealousy. This is about identity, assignment, and timing colliding at once. Anointed one, there are moments when God allows silence not because he is absent, but because he is watching closely. While you were staying hidden, staying faithful, staying quiet, another stepped into rooms that were not prepared for her. She spoke words that did not originate from her spirit. She carried an energy she did not earn. And what made this painful was not the loss itself, but the confusion it caused inside you. That deep sense of being displaced without understanding why. I have lived long enough to know that confusion like that does not come from weakness. It comes from discernment awakening before explanation arrives. Chosen one, you did not lose your place. You were never replaced. Heaven does not recycle identities or mislabel assignments. What happened was exposure delayed for protection. I have seen this pattern in real life, not just in scripture. I have watched people borrow voices, postures, even testimonies that were not theirs, and for a season it looked like they were advancing while the rightful carrier stood still. But what I learned through my own seasons of delay is this: borrowed oil always runs out. Stolen authority always collapses under pressure. Anointed one, you may have felt the heaviness first in your body before your mind understood it. A weariness that sleep could not fix. A loss of clarity that prayer seemed to stir but not immediately resolve. That is because identity theft in the spirit does not just affect opportunity. It affects energy. It creates friction between who you are and what you are currently allowed to touch. I remember walking through a season where doors kept closing without explanation, and only later did I understand that something meant for me was being mishandled elsewhere. Heaven was not punishing me. Heaven was preserving me. Chosen one, this is why the intervention is happening now. Exposure does not come when you are emotional. It comes when you are ready. What she could imitate on the surface, she could not sustain in the spirit. There are details she cannot answer, depths she cannot stand in, pressure she cannot survive. And now, those cracks are beginning to show. Someone has noticed that something does not align. Someone has felt that inner pause that says, "This does not feel true." That pause is holy. That pause is the Spirit interrupting a lie. Anointed One, when heaven intervenes, it rarely announces itself loudly at first. It begins with small misalignments, a name spoken incorrectly, a memory she cannot recall, a reaction that does not match the story. And while she scrambles to maintain the image, heaven is already reversing the flow. What was meant for your name is finding its way back, not because you demanded it, but because you remained intact. Chosen One. This is not just about reputation, it is about assignment. There are things God entrusted to you that cannot be delivered through another vessel. There are people who will only respond to your voice, your tone, your lived authority, and heaven will not allow the wrong carrier to hold what would break them. I have learned this the hard way. Sometimes God allows misuse, because the misuse itself becomes the evidence needed for justice. Anointed One, you are not being called to fight. You are being called to stand. There is a difference. Standing requires restraint, trust, and maturity. Fighting often comes from fear. Standing comes from knowing who you are, even when others forget. The Lord fights for those who know when to be still, as written in Exodus chapter 14, verse 14. And that stillness is not weakness, it is alignment. Chosen One. What is coming next will not feel chaotic. It will feel clarifying. A message, a conversation, a realization, something that connects dots you have been carrying quietly for a long time. When it comes, it will not shock your spirit, it will confirm it. And when confirmation arrives, restoration follows naturally. This is the moment where heaven begins to untangle what was crossed, not all at once, not with noise, but with accuracy. And as this first layer lifts, you will begin to feel lighter, clearer, more present again. That is how you will know the shift has started. We will go deeper into what happens next, and why this reversal could not come earlier in the next part. Chosen One. Now that the first veil has lifted, you may begin to notice how calm the shift feels compared to the chaos you expected. Divine reversals rarely arrive with noise. They arrive with alignment. When heaven corrects what was misused, it does not rush. It restores order. That is why this season feels quieter than the pain that preceded it. Silence is no longer punishment. It is confirmation that heaven is handling what you no longer need to touch. Anointed One, I want to speak to you from lived ground, not just spiritual language. There is a unique exhaustion that comes from being misrepresented, not attacked openly, but slowly displaced. When someone wears what belongs to you, people begin reacting to a version of you that is not true, and over time, you start feeling unseen, even when your name is present. I have walked through that. It teaches you something discipline never could. It teaches you how to anchor identity internally instead of externally. Chosen One. This is why you were able to survive the delay. You were being trained to recognize yourself without mirrors. Heaven knew that when restoration came, it would come fast. And only those who know who they are without applause can carry sudden return without losing balance. The woman who borrowed your identity could not sit in stillness. You could. That alone disqualified her from keeping what was never hers. Anointed One, you may be noticing subtle returns already. Not always financial yet, not always visible, but internal. Clarity returning, peace settling, a steadiness you thought was gone. That is your energy coming home. Spiritual theft always leaves residue, and when it is reversed, the first sign is emotional grounding. You feel less reactive, less urgent, less pressured to explain yourself. That is not detachment, that is authority reoccupying its seat. Chosen one, there is something else happening that few talk about. When exposure approaches, the counterfeit begins to unravel internally before anything collapses externally. You may sense agitation around her, erratic movement, overcompensation, a need to be seen more loudly. That is not confidence, that is pressure. Borrowed identity cannot withstand accountability, and accountability is now being introduced through small, undeniable inconsistencies. Anointed one, this is where heaven often uses witnesses, not enemies. Witnesses. Someone who saw quietly, someone who felt uneasy but did not yet have language. Their conscience is being stirred now. Dreams, reflections, moments of discomfort. Truth does not always accuse. Sometimes it simply refuses to stay buried. When that person speaks, it will not feel dramatic. It will feel factual. And facts shift systems faster than emotion ever could. Chosen one, you are not meant to chase evidence. Evidence is moving toward you. I learned this lesson slowly. The moment you stop trying to prove what you know in your spirit, heaven begins to surface confirmation organically. You are not being vindicated because you are angry. You are being vindicated because order matters to heaven. Identity is not symbolic, it is functional. When the wrong person occupies the wrong role, confusion spreads. Heaven corrects confusion. Anointed one, you may have wondered why you were not allowed to speak earlier, why every attempt to clarify felt blocked. That was protection. If you had spoken too soon, the narrative would have centered on emotion instead of truth. Now, when truth emerges, it will stand without defense. You will not need to convince. Recognition will occur naturally. As written in Isaiah chapter 54, verse 17, what rises falsely does not prosper long. Chosen one. This is also why the return will include more than what was taken. Heaven does not simply replace, it compensates. What was delayed trained you. What was mishandled exposed weakness in another. What is returning will arrive with discernment attached. You will not just receive access again, you will receive clarity about who should never hold proximity to you again. Anointed one, let me ground this. In everyday life, this looks like opportunities reappearing without struggle, conversations reopening without effort, people suddenly saying your name correctly again, not just literally, but energetically. The misunderstanding lifts, the fog clears. You are not reintroduced loudly, you are reintroduced accurately. That is far more powerful. Chosen one. There is a reason heaven waited until you were no longer desperate for justice. Desperation leaks authority. Calm carries it. Now, as you stand without needing to defend yourself, heaven can move freely on your behalf. What unfolds next will not require your force. It will require your presence. In the next part, we will speak about what happens when restoration turns into elevation, and why this return may exceed what you originally lost. Chosen one. What returns to you now will not resemble what was taken, because heaven never restores by rewinding time. It restores by advancing position. This is the part many are not prepared for. You expected replacement. Heaven prepared elevation. And elevation always feels unfamiliar at first, because it requires a new internal posture. You cannot stand in tomorrow's authority using yesterday's survival instincts. Anointed one. There is a moment in every real restoration where the soul hesitates. Not because it doubts God, but because it has grown used to managing loss. I remember the first time something returned to me after a long season of being overlooked. It felt almost intrusive. Peace can feel strange after prolonged tension. Favor can feel unsafe after misrepresentation. If you notice that hesitation rising in you, do not judge it. It is simply your nervous system recalibrating to truth. Chosen one. This is why heaven did not rush the reversal. Identity is not just restored externally. It must settle internally. The reason you were allowed to walk through confusion is because clarity carries responsibility. Once truth is restored, you can no longer move like someone who is unsure of their place. And heaven will not hand authority to someone still trying to prove themselves. Anointed one, you are entering a season where discernment matters more than visibility. Not every door reopening is meant to be entered. Some reopen simply to confirm that you no longer belong there. I have learned that the hardest part of restoration is not receiving again. It is choosing differently. When identity is secure, appetite changes. You stop craving access and start valuing alignment. Chosen one. The elevation coming toward you is not dramatic. It is precise. It will place you in rooms where your presence immediately feels settled. No explanation required. No performance expected. You will notice that you no longer need to overextend. Conversations will feel shorter but deeper. Decisions will feel simpler. That is a sign that your authority is no longer borrowed from effort, but flowing from position. Anointed one, the wealth shift you have been sensing is not only financial, it is energetic. When energy returns to its rightful owner, resources follow naturally. I have seen this pattern repeat quietly. When internal order is restored, external provision reorganizes itself, not always instantly, but inevitably. As written in Joel chapter 2, verse 25, what was consumed does not simply reappear, it is repaid with wisdom attached. Chosen one. This is also where boundaries sharpen, not in fear, but in clarity. You will begin to sense who recognizes you and who only recognizes what you carry. That difference matters now. The season ahead requires fewer people, not more. Those aligned with your restored identity will not compete with you. They will confirm you. You will feel it immediately. There will be no tension in their presence. Anointed one, do not be surprised if invitations arrive without urgency. No pressure, no convincing, just a quiet opening. That is how you will know it is real. Counterfeit access always demands speed. Divine alignment allows breathing room. If something requires you to rush, explain, or minimize yourself, it is not the door you waited for. Chosen one. There is also something being asked of you in this phase. Not action, stewardship. You are being trusted again, and trust requires awareness. You may notice a stronger intuition around timing, people, even language. Pay attention to that. Heaven is not making you suspicious. It is making you selective. Selection is not judgment. It is wisdom earned. Anointed one. This is where your lived experience becomes part of your authority. The delay taught you empathy. The misrepresentation taught you restraint. The silence taught you grounding. These are not wounds. They are credentials. And the spaces you are stepping into next will require exactly that combination. You will not need to announce your story. It will be felt in how you move. Chosen one. There may be moments when the memory of what happened resurfaces, not as pain, but as awareness. That is normal. Restoration does not erase memory, it redeems it. When the memory no longer pulls you backward, it becomes proof that you are no longer bound to that season. You are not returning as a victim. You are arriving as someone who understands consequence, timing, and grace. Anointed One, the person who misused what was yours, will continue unraveling on their own timeline. You do not need to monitor it. The more you detach, the faster heaven completes the correction. This is not avoidance, it is trust. Divine justice does not need your attention to function. Chosen One, as this part closes, anchor this truth. You are not stepping into something new because you demanded it. You are Chosen One. There is a quieter strength being formed in you now, and it does not announce itself the way breakthroughs do. It shows up in how you get up on ordinary days, how you continue when nothing visibly changes, how you remain anchored even when the promise feels close enough to touch, yet still out of reach. This is not the absence of movement. This is maturation. Anointed One, long waiting seasons do something sacred to the soul if you let them. They strip away the need for emotional confirmation. They teach you how to recognize truth without constant reassurance. I remember seasons where the promise was clear, but the calendar kept moving without evidence. Nothing dramatic happened. Life still needed groceries, conversations still needed patience, and faith had to exist without applause. That is where endurance is born. Chosen One, this is why heaven trusts you with delay. Delay is not denial, but delay reveals who can carry fulfillment without collapsing under it. Many people want the outcome, but not the discipline of consistency. You have learned how to show up when no one is watching, how to keep your spirit aligned when your environment does not respond. That matters more than you realize. Anointed One, fatigue in this season does not mean you are weak. It means you have been faithful longer than emotion can sustain. Fatigue is often the sign that faith has moved from excitement into commitment. And commitment does not shout. It breathes steadily. It holds form. It keeps going even when inspiration comes and goes. Chosen One, heaven is not asking you to feel strong every day. It is asking you to remain present. Some days faith looks like courage. Other days it looks like consistency. It looks like choosing integrity when it would be easier to withdraw. It looks like restraint when you could react. These small choices are not invisible. They are being counted. Anointed One, you may notice that your prayers have changed. Fewer words, less urgency, more stillness. That is not distance. That is trust settling in. When faith matures, it stops negotiating and starts resting. The promise does not need to be repeated constantly to remain true. It simply needs to be held. Chosen One, there were days when you needed signs to keep going. That was appropriate for that season. This season is different. Now you are being sustained by remembrance. Remembering what you have already survived. Remembering moments where provision came quietly. Remembering how clarity returned after confusion. Memory becomes fuel when emotion runs low. Anointed One, this is also where discipline becomes devotion, not dramatic acts, simple rhythms, showing up on time, speaking with care, choosing peace over proving a point. These ordinary acts are not separate from the promise. They are the soil it grows in. What is coming to you requires stability more than intensity. Chosen One, I want to name something gently. Faith is often steadied through simple, repeatable reminders rather than constant explanation or dramatic signs. I learned this not from sermons, but from mornings where I had to return to the same quiet truth again and again, without needing it to feel new. There is a small, steady reminder placed below for moments like that, and it rests there without demanding anything from you. Anointed One, do not confuse waiting with stagnation. You are not standing still, You are being rooted. Roots grow in darkness, not because they are lost, but because depth requires cover. What is being built underneath you is what will hold what comes next. Chosen one. You may feel less emotional about the promise lately. That does not mean you care less. It means it is becoming part of you rather than something you chase. When something truly belongs to you, you stop reaching for it constantly. You trust its timing. You prepare your posture instead. Anointed one, endurance does not mean suppressing weariness. It means allowing weariness without letting it define you. You are allowed to feel tired and still be aligned. You are allowed to rest without losing momentum. Heaven does not measure progress by strain. Chosen one. Consistency in this season is an act of worship. Every day you remain grounded. You are saying that your faith is not dependent on conditions. That declaration carries weight. It creates stability in the unseen. It prepares pathways you cannot yet see. Anointed one, the promise is not fragile. It does not need you to hold it tightly. It needs you to stay available. Available in character, available in humility, available in presence. That availability is what keeps the channel clear. Chosen one. There will come a moment when waiting shifts into movement without announcement. One day you will realize you are no longer waiting, you are responding. And because you learned endurance, you will move without panic, without haste, without fear of loss. That is why this part matters. Anointed one, let the quiet days finish their work. Let the ordinary moments shape your strength. Let remembrance replace urgency. What is being prepared for you will not arrive as a test, but as a recognition of who you have already become. And this is where we pause, not because nothing is happening, but because something important is still settling into place. Chosen one. What begins to emerge now is a deeper sense of alignment. Not excitement, not urgency, but a quiet readiness that settles into your body. You may notice that you are no longer scanning the horizon for signs the way you once did. Not because you stopped believing, but because belief has moved from anticipation into trust. This is the posture heaven looks for when it prepares to shift responsibility, not just reward. Anointed one, there is a difference between being ready to receive and being ready to steward. Many can celebrate a return, few can sustain it. The season you are in now is shaping sustainability. I have seen people receive suddenly and lose just as quickly because they were not prepared for the weight of what arrived. Authority is heavier than desire. Favor requires containment. Heaven does not release what cannot be held. Chosen one, you are learning how to carry truth without needing to announce it. How to move with clarity without explaining yourself. How to let results speak without forcing recognition. This restraint is not passive, it is powerful. When your identity no longer depends on response, you gain freedom of movement. You are no longer reactive, you are responsive. Anointed one, something subtle is changing in how people respond to you. Not everyone, but the ones who matter. Conversations feel more grounded. Respect feels quieter, but more solid. This is not imagination. This is alignment being recognized before words catch up. When identity settles, it creates gravity. You do not pull, you attract. Chosen one. There may still be moments where the memory of delay surfaces, a twinge of grief for what could have been earlier. Allow it to pass through without judgment. Grief does not cancel faith, it completes it. When grief is acknowledged, it no longer controls direction. It becomes wisdom instead of weight. Anointed one, the shift you are walking into will ask you to choose integrity repeatedly, even when shortcuts appear justified. Shortcuts often look appealing after long waiting, but they cost more than they save. You did not endure to compromise now. What is coming requires a clean channel. That channel is your consistency. Chosen one, I want to ground this in something ordinary. There were seasons in my life where the greatest act of faith was not prayer or declaration. It was showing up to the same responsibilities without bitterness. Treating people well when I felt unseen. Continuing to refine my craft when no one noticed. Those moments did not feel spiritual at the time. Looking back, they were the foundation. Anointed one, this is why heaven values your daily posture more than your emotional peaks. Emotional peaks rise and fall, posture remains. What you practice now becomes automatic later. And when opportunity arrives, you will not scramble to become someone new. You will simply step forward as who you already are. Chosen one. There is also discernment sharpening in this phase. You will begin to sense what requires your energy and what does not. This is not withdrawal, it is refinement. You are learning that not every open door is an assignment, and not every invitation deserves access. Saying no will feel cleaner. Saying yes will feel weightier. Anointed one, you are not meant to carry everyone with you into the next phase. Some relationships were for survival, others are for growth. The transition between those two can feel lonely if you misunderstand it, but alignment often reduces noise before it increases impact. Chosen one, you may notice that your confidence no longer needs reinforcement. It is quieter, steadier, less performative. That is the kind of confidence that endures pressure. That kind does not need to be defended because it is rooted. And rooted confidence changes how resources, opportunities, and trust move toward you. Anointed one, the wealth shift you sensed earlier may begin to express itself in unexpected forms first. Access before income, stability before expansion, clarity before increase. These are not delays, they are sequence. Heaven does not skip steps when it plans to sustain. Chosen one, what matters now is not speed but stewardship. You are being observed not by spectators but by systems. Systems respond to consistency. Systems reward reliability. You are becoming someone others can trust with responsibility without constant oversight. That is a rare currency. Anointed one, remain gentle with yourself in this stretch. Growth without gentleness hardens the heart. Gentleness without growth stalls movement. You are learning how to hold both. Strength without rigidity, awareness without fear, presence without pressure. Chosen one, soon you will notice that things begin moving without your initiation. Conversations resume on their own. Opportunities return with better terms. Recognition arrives without pursuit. This is not coincidence, it is response. Heaven responds to alignment the same way nature responds to order. Anointed one, when that movement begins, you will recognize it not by excitement, but by peace. No scrambling, no proving, no urgency, just a clear sense of this fits. That is how you will know the waiting did its work. Chosen one, as we pause here, hold this truth steady. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not merely waiting. You are being positioned with precision. And when the next step becomes visible, you will move without hesitation because the ground beneath you will already feel familiar. Chosen one. There is a shift happening now that is less about preparation and more about recognition. You are beginning to see yourself differently, not through affirmation or achievement, but through clarity. The noise that once surrounded your sense of worth is thinning. You are no longer measuring yourself against outcomes. You are measuring alignment. That change is not small. It marks the transition from being shaped to being trusted. Anointed one, something important happens when the waiting has done its work. You stop rehearsing explanations. You stop imagining confrontations. You stop planning how you will be seen. The need to manage perception fades. I remember realizing one day that I no longer needed people to understand what I had been through. That was the day the past stopped having leverage. When understanding is no longer required, authority settles naturally. Chosen one. This is where discernment becomes embodied, not conceptual. You do not think your way into decisions anymore. You feel when something fits and when it does not. There is less inner debate, less justification. That ease is not carelessness. It is alignment becoming instinctive. You are not guessing anymore. You are responding. Anointed one. This phase may feel unfamiliar because it lacks drama. There are no emotional highs to chase, no pressure to prove growth. The growth is evident in your restraint, in your pacing, in your ability to let things unfold without interference. That is not passivity, that is mastery. Chosen one. Heaven often moves people into visibility after they no longer need it. That is when it is safest. When recognition no longer defines you, it can be entrusted to you. You may begin to notice subtle forms of acknowledgement returning, invitations framed differently, conversations that assume your presence rather than question it. These are not accidents. They are signals that your name is settling back into its rightful place. Anointed one, you are also learning how to release what does not belong in the next phase without resentment. That includes outdated expectations, old roles, relationships that required you to be smaller. Releasing them does not mean they were wrong, it means they were seasonal, and seasons are allowed to end without explanation. Chosen one, this is where gratitude deepens. Not gratitude for outcomes, but gratitude for refinement, for the strength gained in obscurity, for the clarity born in silence. Gratitude becomes quieter here, less expressive, more rooted. It shows up as steadiness rather than celebration. That steadiness is what makes the next expansion possible. Anointed one, there is also a recalibration of ambition taking place. Ambition driven by fear dissolves. Ambition guided by purpose sharpens. You are no longer motivated by catching up. You are motivated by alignment. That shift will change how you pursue opportunity. You will move with intention rather than urgency. Chosen one, you may sense that some doors are closing gently without resistance, not slamming, just closing. This is mercy. Heaven is reducing distractions so your focus can remain clear. Focus is not about narrowing vision, it is about eliminating noise. What remains will feel simpler, not heavier. Anointed one, let me speak honestly from experience. When alignment deepens, solitude can increase briefly, not because you are isolated, but because your frequency is changing. This is temporary. Solitude creates space for recalibration. When connection returns, it will be cleaner, more mutual, less draining. Chosen one, this is also where you begin to trust your pace. You stop rushing to meet timelines that are not yours. You recognize that what is meant for you will not require anxiety to obtain. Peace becomes a compass. When peace leaves, you pause. When peace stays, you proceed. This internal guidance is more reliable than external advice. Anointed one, the systems around you are adjusting, even if you cannot see it yet. Decisions are being reconsidered, structures are shifting, people are reassessing. Not because you pushed, but because truth has a way of resurfacing when timing is right. You do not need to remind anyone of your value. Value reveals itself over time. Chosen one, There is a confidence growing in you that does not fluctuate with circumstances. That confidence will carry you through moments of transition ahead, because transition is coming, not abrupt, not chaotic, but unmistakable. You will feel when it begins. There will be a sense of readiness rather than surprise. Anointed one, remain grounded as movement resumes. Grounded people navigate change with grace. They do not overcorrect. They do not over-explain. They allow change to integrate rather than overwhelm. That grounding is the result of everything you have walked through so far. Chosen one. As we move toward the next phase, know this. What is aligning now is not just opportunity, but responsibility. You are being trusted with influence that requires discernment, not impulse. Presence, not performance. Wisdom, not urgency. You are ready for that, even if it feels understated right now. And here we pause again, not because the story is slowing, but because something essential is locking into place before the next movement reveals itself. Chosen one. You are now approaching the phase where movement resumes without announcement. There is no trumpet, no warning, no dramatic shift in atmosphere. Instead, things begin to respond to you differently. People listen more closely. Systems adjust without explanation. Resistance thins. This is how alignment reveals itself after endurance has done its work. Anointed one, this is often the moment when doubt tries to return quietly, not as fear, but as hesitation. A subtle voice that asks whether it is really happening or if you are imagining progress. That voice is not intuition, it is memory. Memory of delay, memory of being overlooked, memory of standing still while others moved ahead. Recognize it for what it is. It is residue, not reality. Chosen one. Reality now is shaped by readiness. You have already done the internal work most never complete. You learned how to stay steady without reinforcement, how to remain faithful without feedback, how to hold your identity when it was not mirrored back to you. That internal stability is what allows movement now without collapse. Anointed one, there is a kind of trust heaven places on those who have endured quietly. It is not trust in intention, but trust in restraint. You have shown that you will not misuse access when it returns, that you will not become reckless with opportunity, that you will not confuse elevation with entitlement. These qualities are not taught quickly, they are formed over time. Chosen one. You may notice that when doors open now, they do not require persuasion. There is less negotiation, less proving, less convincing. You are recognized before you speak. That recognition is not based on personality or charisma. It is based on coherence. Your words, presence, and timing now agree with each other. When alignment exists, authority is assumed. Anointed one, let me speak from experience again. When movement resumes after a long pause, it can feel almost anticlimactic. You expected fireworks. Instead, you receive calm confirmation. That calm is intentional. It allows you to integrate change without losing yourself in it. Sudden excitement often destabilizes. Calm expansion sustains. Chosen one. This is also where boundaries are tested again, but differently, not through pressure, but through opportunity. You may be invited into spaces that look beneficial, but feel slightly off. Pay attention to that. Alignment does not mean everything that opens is meant to be entered. Some openings exist only to confirm that you no longer need them. Anointed one. You are no longer operating from hunger. Hunger distorts judgment. You are operating from fullness. Fullness allows discernment. That shift alone protects what is coming next. You will not grasp. You will choose. That difference matters. Chosen one. There is also a recalibration happening in how you measure success. It is becoming less about speed and more about sustainability, less about visibility and more about impact. You are beginning to see that longevity requires pacing. That truth will serve you well as responsibilities increase. Anointed one, people around you may begin to comment on your presence, not in dramatic ways, subtle observations. You seem calmer, more grounded, more focused. These are not compliments, they are indicators. They signal that your internal alignment is becoming externally noticeable. Chosen one. As momentum builds, remember this. You are not required to explain your journey to validate it. Not everyone needs access to your process. Privacy protected you before. It will continue to protect you now. Discernment about who hears your story is part of stewardship. Anointed one. The season ahead will reward those who move deliberately. You have already been trained for that. You know how to wait without resentment. Now you are learning how to move without arrogance. Both are rare skills. Together they create influence that lasts. Chosen one. There may still be moments where impatience tries to resurface, especially as you sense things accelerating. When that happens, return to the steadiness you cultivated in the quiet season. That steadiness is not meant to be abandoned once movement begins. It is meant to anchor you as things change. Anointed one, you are not stepping into chaos. You are stepping into order catching up. What appears sudden from the outside is actually the result of long internal preparation. You will not be overwhelmed by what arrives because you have already learned how to carry weight without noise. Chosen one, this is also where gratitude becomes protective. Not performative gratitude, but quiet acknowledgement. A recognition that timing matters, that sequence matters, that what came later came better. Gratitude keeps the heart soft while responsibility increases. Anointed one, as we near the close of this section, hold this awareness. The movement you are entering does not require you to abandon who you became while waiting. That version of you is not obsolete. It is essential. It is the reason you can move forward without losing your grounding. Chosen one. The next phase will ask you to act, but not to rush. To receive, but not to cling. To lead, but not to dominate. You are prepared for that balance now. You have lived the cost of misalignment. You know the value of order. And this is where we pause again, right before responsibility begins to show itself more clearly. Because what is about to unfold will require the same steadiness that carried you through the waiting. Chosen one. This is the point where what was invisible becomes operational. Not dramatic, not announced, but active. The season of preparation has already crossed into the season of execution, even if the outer world has not fully caught up yet. What you are stepping into now is not recovery. It is responsibility returning to its rightful carrier. Anointed one, you may notice that decisions carry more weight now. Not pressure, but consequence. Your words land differently. Your presence shifts outcomes subtly. This is not because you changed your personality. It is because alignment amplifies influence. When who you are and where you stand finally agree, reality responds. Chosen one. There is a sacred seriousness that enters here, not heaviness but gravity. You are no longer being shaped for potential, you are being positioned for impact. That means discernment becomes moment to moment. You do not move on impulse, you move on clarity. That clarity has been cultivated through every quiet season you endured. Anointed one, you may feel a renewed sense of stewardship over your life. Time matters more, energy matters more, Access matters more. This is not control, it is care. When something valuable is returned, it is handled differently than before. You no longer give yourself away casually. You no longer explain yourself unnecessarily. You protect what has been refined. Chosen one. The identity that was once imitated can no longer be worn by another because it is now anchored in action. Counterfeits survive on appearance. Authentic authority survives on consistency. As you begin to act from your restored position, the gap between imitation and truth becomes undeniable. Not through exposure campaigns, but through contrast. Anointed one, you will notice that some people who once questioned you now defer to you quietly. Others may never acknowledge the shift outwardly, but they will adjust their behavior. This is not validation, it is recalibration. Systems recalibrate when truth occupies its place. Chosen one. What is unfolding now is not about proving anything, it is about embodying what was always yours. Embodiment does not rush, it does not announce, it simply occupies space naturally, and once space is occupied correctly, it does not need defending. Anointed one. There may still be moments when the memory of theft surfaces, not as pain, but as awareness. Let it remain awareness only. It no longer defines you. It no longer fuels you. It no longer drives your decisions. It has served its purpose by sharpening discernment and reinforcing boundaries. Chosen one.
Fear not.
This is also the phase where multiplication replaces restoration. Restoration returns what was lost. Multiplication expands what was learned. You are not stepping back into old roles. You are stepping forward into larger ones, with clearer vision and stronger footing. What once overwhelmed you would not overwhelm you now, because you are not the same carrier. Anointed one, your authority is quieter than it used to be, because it no longer needs to announce itself. It is felt in how things settle around you, in how tension dissipates, in how clarity follows you into rooms. That is not charisma, that is coherence. Chosen one. There is also a release happening here, a release from explaining your journey, a release from revisiting the past, a release from waiting for acknowledgement. These releases free energy, and that energy is what fuels what comes next. When you stop looking backward, momentum increases forward. Anointed one, this does not mean there will be no challenges ahead. It means challenges will meet you at your level, not beneath it. You will not be tested by confusion again. You will be tested by responsibility. That is a higher order test, and you are equipped for it. Chosen one, you are now walking in a phase where integrity sustains expansion. Every decision you make reinforces the alignment heaven restored. You will find that saying less accomplishes more, that presence accomplishes more than persuasion, that timing accomplishes more than force. Anointed one, the promise did not arrive loudly because it arrived securely. Loud things attract interference, secure things endure. What has returned to you is protected not by secrecy, but by structure. You have structure now, internal structure, spiritual structure, emotional structure. Chosen one, as this final part of the body closes, let this truth settle fully. You are no longer waiting to become, you are becoming by walking. What was taken could not stop you. What was delayed did not derail you. What was imitated could not replace you. Anointed one, from here forward, your life speaks for you. Your steadiness speaks. Your clarity speaks. Your discernment speaks. You do not need to announce your arrival. Alignment has already done that work quietly, thoroughly, and permanently. Chosen one. Now the word has been released, not as a warning, but as a covering. What you have received today is not theory or encouragement alone, it is confirmation. You are standing in your kairos moment, the exact intersection where timing, alignment, and divine order meet. What was delayed has not been denied. It has been protected until you are ready to carry it with wisdom and peace. Anointed One, the transfer you have sensed is already in motion, not rushed, not chaotic, but precise. Heaven does not move late, and it does not move early. It moves when the vessel is prepared. Blessing is finding you now because you stayed faithful when it was quiet. Favor is locating you now because you remained aligned when it was unseen. Lift your eyes forward with gratitude, not anxiety, and allow what is unfolding to arrive without resistance. Chosen One, as you go from this moment, remain steady, guard your alignment. Walk gently with what God is entrusting to you. If this word resonated in your spirit, you may leave a quiet Amen in the comments, or choose to stay connected, not out of obligation, but out of shared faith and discernment. And remember, God's reminders are not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes something calm and practical has already been prepared below, resting quietly in the pinned comment or the description, ready for moments when the heart needs steadiness. Anointed One, may peace guard you, clarity guide you, and favor meet you as you walk forward.
Fear not.
What is yours
for behold,
is returning,
I bring
and
you
what
good
is returning
tidings of great
will remain.
joy, which shall be to all people.